What is up, guys and gals? Welcome to episode number 135 of the Nonsense Review. I'm your host, as always, Devon, and joining me equally as always is Rick.
Hello, everybody, and we're doing spooky again this time.
Man, took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to go into a whole spiel, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's spooky month, so we're doing spooky things.
As you'll find out, yeah, we're sticking on a bit of a theme this time.
But yes, before we get bogged down in semantics and random tangents, let's go into our organised tangents. Rick, how's your week been, buddy?
Well, I've done a couple of things. We went up to a place called Alnwick. It's spelt Alnwick, but apparently everyone calls it Alnwick. We stayed above a bakery, which would have been dangerous to my health to do it for longer than a weekend. The bakery owners were fantastic hosts because they gave you a care package of a ton of fucking bread and baked goods. We were there for a wedding of our neighbours, and turns out I wasn't even invited. I was just there to be a taxi man.
So when you say you weren't invited, does that mean you didn't go to the ceremony at all, or what does that mean?
Oh, it means that the invitations were for homeowners, not for the children thereof.
Okay, but to call you a children...
Oh, yeah. I'm older than my parents were when they had me. Yes, I'm not really a child. However, I still class as children of the people who were invited. My name wasn't on the invite. So I wasn't invited. My folks went. I was in the home that we rented playing Baldur's Gate 3 and eating a local pizza.
Wow, that sounds more miserable than a wedding.
Yep. And we got to see Bamborough Castle, which is currently having a collaboration with the Last Kingdom on Netflix. They've got a bunch of paraphernalia from the show, just set up like standees of the actors and some like weapons and costumes used in the show.
Am I insane? Isn't Last Kingdom meant to be Welsh?
It might be, but it makes more. I think they actually mention like the original queen that Bamborough was named after. I think it was like Bama or something.
I've not seen the show. I just remember that I could have sworn it was about a Welsh king trying to take the throne of Wales back from Britain, but I could be wrong.
Maybe. I've also not seen it, so yeah, it's just something that was there as a little extra during our trip around the castle. The castle itself, probably one of the better quote-unquote heritage sites in the UK. However, because it's privately owned, it's not a museum, so you got to pay. So, other things that we did. I watched the season 5 of Disenchantment, and I think it's a reasonably complete feeling ending.
Oh, it's actually ended now.
I mean, it doesn't do the Netflix thing of giving a cliffhanger for a season 6. Like, they tie pretty much everything off, assuming that they're ending. Yes, characters are alive. Yes, they can continue. However, this is it's less, oh, hey, this character's alive. I wonder what they're going to do, and more like, haha, they're alive, they're on the moon. It's like it's like a Despicable Me ending, you know. And we started watching Good Omen season 2, which it's the season that was written obviously without the input of Terry Pratchett completely. Like, they had notes on what they were going to do, and they had to be filled out quite a lot. So it very much does feel a bit like a season 2 of a series that felt complete. We only have the main pair pretty much. So rather than jumping to a secondary plotline for filler, they jump to their past, which, you know, is kind of what people were there for, but it is very noticeable when the original story had multiple storylines all going at once that all intersected with each other.
Yeah, also, like, Terry Pratchett was rather notorious for doing that quite well.
Yes.
That being said, wasn't this series co-authored by, is it Gaiman?
Yeah, I think it's Neil Gaiman. Gaiman or Gaiman, I've never heard his name said out loud.
You know, come to think of it, neither have I.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm fully on the side of people who have read a thing and don't know how to pronounce it because they've never heard it, because it means that you read. So thumbs up to people that don't know how to pronounce things. So yeah, I don't know how the guy's name is pronounced, but yeah, he's pretty much heading it up. And recently it was revealed he's about to start writing season 3. Whether or not it's been approved for season 3, don't know.
Sure.
Out into the wide world, ransomed.vc has hacked all of Sony's files.
I'm sorry, what?
All of Sony's files.
Why? How? This is very bad.
Yeah, this happened back in 2011 or something, when or 2014, one of those years. Sony got a massive data breach just for PlayStation, and apparently it's now all of Sony for this time round. Sony didn't want to pay the data ransom, kind of understandably. So the hacker group has gone straight to, we are no longer negotiating, and saying, because we're not negotiating, that means we're not ransoming it, we're just straight up selling the data. So anyone can go and buy any data that was breached and scooped from Sony. And I'm sure this isn't related in any way, but Jim Ryan is retiring as CEO of PlayStation.
I don't know if it's related to that, but bear in mind the guy for Xbox also retired about 2 weeks ago. So
yeah.
It might be related, it might be not related, I don't know.
It might be.
That's a pretty big fuck up if it's all of Sony's files. That means anytime they've sold anything to anyone, they've pretty much got information on the person they sold it to. Mostly email addresses. Like, scam sites will not pay a premium, but they'll pay you for those.
Yeah. Like any passwords that people have. So hopefully you don't reuse a password that you use on a Sony thing.
But yeah, it's one of those where two-factor authentication, don't have credit cards saved directly on Sony's website, which I don't think anyone does, but there's an option to do it.
Yeah, I have my PayPal saved to it, but again, you have to 2FA PayPal when you've not used it in a while anyway, I consider that reasonably secure. And yeah, the last thing that I've got on my docket is that we have a date for Hazbin Hotel. It's going to be January 2024 on Prime Video, and Season 2 is already confirmed.
Rick, you didn't word it correctly. It's, and guess what, bitches?
Yes.
I'm very disappointed that it's on Amazon Prime.
I'm disappointed, however, I have it.
Yeah, well, I don't support Amazon. I don't like Amazon. I do whatever I can to not give Amazon money, which includes not subscribing to their Prime services, which means this is going to be a real ethical question for me.
Yep, ditto. All I do is I take advantage of my dad's Amazon Prime because, he can't be persuaded not to do something out of ethical spite.
I just want to reiterate, because some people listening might think I'm a crazy person, but, you never use Amazon. I do use Amazon. I'm not stupid. There are some things that you not have to use Amazon for, but, it's certainly more convenient to use Amazon than pay a shit zillion dollars because you don't want to give Amazon a fiver. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a saint when it comes to not using Amazon. It's just, if you can't do something perfectly, do it imperfectly. So I boycott Amazon as best I can.
Yeah. But yes, that's it for me and my week. How have you been? What have you seen out in the wide world? And how have you been existing?
I've been playing a fuck ton of Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah! You linked me to the first DLC video, and that's wild.
Well, yeah, but, again, I feel like it's wild to people who've not been playing Mortal Kombat for the last, 3 games, because they've been going nuts with their guest characters since pretty much MK10.
Yeah. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if, Ernest Hemingway was a guest fighter.
I mean, that wouldn't make any sense, but sure. It's one of those where getting Omni-Man and Homelander in the same game is interesting on its own right. They also had Peacemaker? Yeah, Peacemaker, which I completely glossed over because I was just thinking about wanting to see Omni-Man and Homelander fight.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Omni-Man and Homelander are the same character in that they are Superman but evil. But yeah, MK1, it's a good game. It's a confusing as fuck game. The story is wild in that there's no easy way to say this, Rick. Sub-Zero is now Scorpion, Smoke is now Sub-Zero, and Smoke is some dude who I've never fucking heard of.
Okay. I would have to, I'd have to experience it to be able to process it, because that was, whew, I'm vaguely aware of the characters. That was a mile a minute, and it's weird.
Yeah, okay, so Liu Kang has recreated the timeline. He's given up his role as Guardian of Time because he wants to just live a life in a timeline. Liu Kang is the most uninventive, boring as fuck person ever because the changes he's made to the timeline are trivial at best. And, oh, by the way, the main villain from the last game is also the villain for this game, despite the fact there's no possible way for her to come back. Okay.
Apparently Liu Kang forgot that she died, or something?
No, because there's somehow 2 parallel timelines going on at the same time, and she jumped over from the other one, despite the fact that Liu Kang was God of Time for about an hour.
Yep, alright. Weird.
So the biggest, obviously there's a lot of big changes, but the biggest one is that Liu Kang is now the protector of Earthrealm instead of Raiden, and Raiden is now basically Liu Kang in this universe. It's so fucking asinine. You know that DLC I did send to you beforehand?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has fucked me off a little bit because you've got Ermac and Quan Chi in those in that DLC pack, and those are characters that show up in the story that you just can't play as, which, you know, that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. I found it really weird that Quan Chi was going to be a DLC character, and you were like, oh, don't worry about it, he don't exist no more, this is just for fan service. And no, apparently it's not just for fan service.
Well, yeah, because one of the things Liu Kang did was he's given everyone a second chance, except for Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, because they're always the biggest problem. So they got given menial, like Quan Chi was sent to forced labour for all of his life in a mining camp, and Shang Tsung was a charlatan until the main villain came in and fucked everything up. Liu Kang even says it halfway through the story, there's a new deadly alliance, and everyone goes, what the fuck's a deadly alliance?
Mortal Kombat 5 Deadly Alliance.
For real, the Deadly for those who don't know, Deadly Alliance is Shang Tsung and Quan Chi teamed up, and they were the Deadly Alliance. The cameo system's fun.
Didn't they prove that they were deadly as a Deadly Alliance by killing Liu Kang?
Dude, I don't fucking remember.
Yeah, because, like, it's like comic books, certain characters die for a certain amount of time just for, like, clickbait.
Netherrealm exists, so therefore no one's really dead. Like, Liu Kang and Katana were dead for 2 games, and you could still play as them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got a grey version, there you go.
For real. But yeah, the Shirai Ryu just don't seem to exist in-game, in-universe. Shirai Ryu is Scorpion's clan. Scorpion used to be a dude called Hanzo. He is now Hui Leng, who is Sub-Zero in the last Mortal Kombat game, whose older brother Bi-Han is the original Sub-Zero, and therefore Sub-Zero in this game, who is evil again, because fuck it. And Smoke is some dude called Tomaz, who I don't know who the fuck that's meant to be, but whatever.
Oh, fair enough.
So Liu Kang makes some weird fucking decisions when shaping the universe. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, and Tomaz. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who the fuck. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. There's probably a Mortal Kombat nerd out there who's like, oh my god, that's so-and-so from MK 2.5. And I'm like, fuck off.
It's possible that his name is just something backwards from the development team, and that's the gag. But, yeah.
I don't know. But it's even weirder because even though Sub-Zero is now Scorpion still goes, get over here! Like he's always done, because it's basically iconic.
Yeah, it is. It's totally iconic. Like, you can't have Scorpion without, get over here!
It's wild. I'm enjoying it. There's certain aspects I don't like. They've got a premium shop, which, again, rubs me the wrong way. Every fighting game seems to fucking do it nowadays, but I'm not a big fan. You can pay money for in-game currency to buy cosmetic items, which, nah. This game is £70.
Yep.
But yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm having fun with the story. I'm having fun with it. I'm not good enough to play online. That's just a fact. I get beaten very easily, and it's not fun.
Yep. It's very easy to blame lag on that, but that actually is a thing. Like, playing in person is a lot more smooth than any online version of any fighting game.
I mean, sure, I could blame lag, but it's not lag, it's a skill issue. If it was lag, I'd be bitching that the game's laggy. I wouldn't be bitching about the fact that, no, I'm just not good at the game. And it's like, oh, go into practice and teach yourself, and I'm like, I'm not spending hours of my life to get good at a game just so I can play it online. The only saving grace is Mortal Kombat being a fighting game, it's one-on-one, so if I lose, it doesn't really affect anyone but me.
Yeah.
I finally watched Glass Onion.
Okay.
That's the Knives Out quote-unquote sequel that was done by Netflix.
Alrighty.
I say sequel because you don't have to have watched the previous film to watch this film. There's absolutely nothing connecting to, apart from the fact that it's the same detective.
Sure.
So pretty much like Poirot and Sherlock Holmes, you don't have to watch the prior cases to actually enjoy it.
Yeah, because the detective's personality should shine through in whatever adventure that they're in.
Yeah, and the detective's played by Daniel Craig, who is a fucking great actor, and he does a great southern accent.
Sure.
The film's fun. It really is an all-star cast because they've only got like 6 people on screen, so they're all names.
Sure.
It's just a fun... I can't say anything without spoiling it. It's a fun movie. Go watch it. It is over 2 hours, so you got to buckle in for a bit of a ride. Yeah, you ready for some news, Rick?
Yeah, let's go.
Michael Gambon has passed away at the age of 82.
He has.
Yeah, most of the world will know him as Dumbledore. You quite rightly point out that anyone over the age of, 50 will probably know him best as being the namesake of Gambon's Corner.
Yeah, so I didn't know his name until Gambon Corner, and retroactively went back and went, oh, okay, that's who he is in Harry Potter. So now we have lost both Dumbledores.
Yeah, he played Dumbledore after film 2 because the original fella died. Weirdly, I think the original fella probably did do a better job, but it's going to be hard to say because Gambon is going to be known for that role more now.
Yeah, the original fella, I think, filled the role better, but Gambon was the one that carried it forth through more films.
I'm not knocking Gambon here, it's just the original fella was more quiet and reserved and how I felt Dumbledore would have been.
Yeah, so the original fella didn't like Sir Ian McKellen and didn't want him to be Dumbledore. So out of respect, they hired anyone else.
I don't know why he'd have beef with Ian McKellen. That being said, I would have preferred... I also think Ian McKellen as Dumbledore probably wouldn't have worked.
Mostly because they were filming early Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings at the same time.
Well, again, I didn't want to see McKellen do both of those characters. That's basically the crux of it.
And while the person, Christopher Lee, would obviously have been kind and kindly enough, he had a persona among his fans as being a more stoic and hard-assed set of characters that he played towards the end of his life and towards the end of his career.
Sure. I'm trying to think. I can't remember him smiling in any role post-2000.
Yeah, he will be sorely missed by his fans.
Yeah, 82's good innings, in my opinion.
It is.
But yeah, in other news, Rick, the writers fucking won.
Good. Excellent. Bravo. Round of applause.
The WGA and the AMPTP have reached a tentative agreement to end the writers' strike. And basically, the WGA got pretty much all of their demands, including a minimum working space. In other words, a room has to be X big for a writer to work in. And
yes,
studios cannot use the big one that most people were probably harping on about, apart from the money and work conditions, was studios can't just use an AI to write scripts. Writers are allowed to, however, here's the saving grace, because I've always said AI is a good tool and it shouldn't be completely dismissed. Writers are allowed to use AI to help them in their work if they wish to. However, that doesn't mean people can just hire a writer and make that writer use an AI instead of writing themselves. Does that make sense?
Or they can, as long as it's a guild writer, and at that point you might as well pay them to do their job properly.
Well, again, it's up to the writer to decide, not the studio.
Sure.
That's the main point. If the writer wants to use an AI, they can. But, I think there's also a word minimum that the writer has to make, as in...
Sure. Okay.
Rick, there's a Japanese advert for McDonald's and it's making people horny.
All right.
I haven't actually found an animation. It appears to just be a picture, and it's a father, a mother, and their daughter, and they're eating chicken nuggets, and it's drawn in anime style, and all of a sudden people are just isolating the mother and drawing her in all sorts of lewd scenarios, because that's what the internet do.
Yep. Yeah, it's been posted around the last week or so. Yeah, okay. Apparently it's making people furious and also horny.
I don't understand the furious part.
Yeah, we don't know. Man, they look so cute. They look cute in that screenshot that I've seen. But yeah.
Last but not least, Rick, Fortnite has done a fucky-wucky with some Russian players.
Have they indeed?
Yeah, so Fortnite does say that they don't pay out money to winners of tournaments from certain countries, one of them being Russia, because, obviously. So these two Russian guys won some Fortnite tournament. I don't know the specifics of the tournament details. I don't give a fuck about Fortnite. But they won this tournament. They were entitled to $200,000 because that was the prize pool. It was an official thing run by, I'd assume it'd be Epic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be Epic.
Yeah, they've basically been pestering Epic for their prize money and haven't been getting a response. And they keep pointing out that, yes, they are Russian, but they live in Belarus. So
yeah, fair enough.
And you got all sorts of things going on now. You got people saying, yeah, but Belarus is basically Russia, and by that I mean Russia can just move troops there freely.
Yeah, it's essentially a puppet state.
But at the same time, Belarus is not listed on the banned prize list, so in theory, Epic should pay out. They can afford to.
Oh yeah, totally. They also recently have announced cuts in their staff across the board. About 16% of all Epic staff are now facing the axe.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? It's great, because the company's doing so well, and yet people still have to go.
Some bean counter thinks, oh yes, let's get rid of, a sixth of our guys. And yeah, fucking hell. Fucking epic.
But yeah, it's one of those where it's a weird scenario, because on the one hand, I don't want this prize money to get funneled into Russian government pockets, because, you know...
It will.
Yeah, exactly. On the other hand, technically speaking, these two players have done nothing against the rules and are entitled to the money. It's a real balancing act, and I don't actually think Epic can win whatever they finally decide upon. At the moment, it seems that they're just determined not to give out the money.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
You know, again, the thing that bugs me the most, though, is that, you know, Epic isn't doing it because of some moral standpoint. They're just greedy fuck. But yeah, I think that does it for news this week. As we alluded to, we're doing a bit of a spooky month. We're going to start with Hannibal, the TV show. Cards on the table. I've watched pretty much all of the Hannibal stuff we're going to be doing this month. Rick hasn't.
I have watched basically like 2/3 of Silence of the Lambs, and that's about it. I'm vaguely aware that Mads Mikkelsen is the Hannibal in this one, and I don't know where it falls on the timeline, but the reason that we're doing it first is we don't know how long it's going to stay on Netflix.
Yeah. So my strategy for getting the movies is I have the DVDs, I can take them off the DVDs and give us MP4 files. I've paid for the DVDs, there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is when you do that for a TV show, it takes the entire disc off instead of the fucking episodes. So,
Yes.
Yeah, it meant I had like a 3-hour-long file, and we'd have to just randomly pause it at the right spot and do it as a cut-off point, which is not great when we're doing an organised sort of watch-along.
No, it's not. Yeah, if you want to join along with us at home.
It's Hannibal Episode 1, Aperitif.
Yeah, aperitif. 3, 2, 1, and go.
Rick legitimately did not see that I before the T. So yeah, the timeline's a bit weird with the Hannibal TV show, because they do stuff which involves Clarice, but they keep it as Will Graham. Will Graham is the detective that caught Hannibal, and in this is before Hannibal's even technically quote unquote done anything to be caught with.
Sure.
So this is our main character, Will Graham. He's in the movies, he's a detective. In this, he's a consultant to detectives. And they make it clear that, again, you'll learn this when you see the movies, where one of the reasons why Will Graham was so effective at helping police and his detective work is he consulted with a psychiatrist, Hannibal Lecter.
Sure.
So we're seeing the consultation between him and Hannibal before Hannibal is revealed to be, you know, Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
I think nowadays you could just say the word Hannibal when you know what Hannibal's deal is.
Yeah, you know that they're not talking about the one who went across the went across the Alps with the elephant.
Yeah, he went all the way to the Andes.
Yeah, to the Andes. Fucking yep. Went across the Andes with the elephants.
Oh, I forgot to ask you, Rick. You're okay with gore, aren't you?
It's just Ribena, it's fine.
Okay, sure. This show's quite graphic.
Yeah, I don't like when people step on eyeballs with their feet and get it between their toes.
Okay, I don't think that happens.
Yeah, it's rather specific. Basically, I don't like eyeball stuff, like enucleation, anything like that.
Sure. So Will Graham's deal is he's super empathetic. So he can, you know what empathy is, don't you, Rick?
Yeah.
So this is like taken to an absurd superhuman degree, where he can tell what people were feeling and recreate it in his head.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm explaining this is because I watched this with another friend. This is like the third time I'm watching episode 1. Because I've watched it on my own, I watched it with another friend, and I had to explain it to him as well.
Yep. Oh boy. So she dies fully aware that she's dying.
Could you imagine spending the amount of time to get such high proficiency with accuracy just so you could prolong someone's suffering? You gotta be fucked up.
Here's the thing. I can imagine it.
Okay.
Like, it's, sometimes the epitome of skill is how fucked up you can be with it.
If you say so. So yeah, this is something that they don't tend to go over a lot in that in real life crimes. You know when you see the chalk outlines?
Yeah.
That's because the victim had a chance of surviving. So so they outline where they were, and then they take them off to the hospital. Whereas if the victim is straight up dead, they just put a tarp over them and leave the body there while they investigate.
Sure.
I don't know how true that is.
I mean...
Okay, the way he just worded that, it's like saying, oh, fuck off and die is what he means, which, I guess some people have fucking thought that. Everyone's probably thought that about someone.
Hands up in the court, who's not actually thinking about killing her right now?
Okay.
She's always leaving the toilet seat up. Oh, hello.
Oh, you didn't know who was in this?
No.
Ah, yeah. So, if you watched the Silence of the Lamb, Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter films, you would know both of these characters?
Sure. I watched it a long time ago and don't remember very much from it other than hello, Clarice, and it puts the lotion on the skin.
It puts the lotion in the basket.
Yeah. It puts the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again.
So that's what I summarised earlier is basically what they're going over now.
Yeah, that he can't turn it off, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think on TV tropes it's called a disability superpower.
Sure. Like, I remember they had that detective show, Monk, where his superpower was he was OCD.
Yeah. Yeah, just positive discrimination for this neurodivergent main character.
Okay, do you know what one of the funniest things is for the Monk show?
Go ahead.
When they released it on DVD, there was one season, and I think it was like season 11 out of 13, where they put the number on the bottom of the spine instead of the top.
Yeah, they always fucking do that. Like, oh man, it annoys me so much when they do that with like anything. Like, I remember in Excel Saga, they like every 11th, like 1, 11, and 21 were all different colors, and the rest of them were purple on the spine. So yeah, that bothered me.
That's a real fucked up analogy, but it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this crops up a lot in like sniper movies where it's, oh, the person went on a killing spree, and that was to mask their actual target.
Well, this one isn't to mask. It's like they know who their actual victim is, and they're basically getting ready because they want to make it special. Is what Graham's saying.
Sure.
So one of the reasons why Will Graham is reluctant to help Jack is he doesn't like empathizing with killers. Because it actually damages his psyche.
Sure.
I would not be able to be a detective or a policeman who has to interrogate parents who have just lost their kid.
No, absolutely not. Especially when, like, it seems these days in America in particular, police care only about a charge rather than the correct charge.
Oh, that's everywhere. That's here as well. Like, it's always been the case.
Yeah, but, like, they're incentivized for every arrest they make, essentially.
They're not, though. They just want to get the crime off the books. It's less incentivization. They don't get rewarded. It just means they have less work once it's off the table.
Yeah. Around here, they have quotas for non-minorities because it seems like they victimize minorities when they arrest a disproportionate number.
I've never seen evidence of that, so you're allowed to say what you want, but I've not seen any. The only people I've seen spouting that nonsense is the fucking EDL. See, I appreciate that you don't know what's going to happen, but I do, and it all makes such more sense in retrospect.
Okie dokie.
As you can say in most detective shows.
So the cat wants to eat her face. Strangely empathetic for the person who's using Empathy Man as a blunt force object.
Because he's done this before. They don't touch it upon this until way late in the season, but he's done this before to him.
Yeah.
And the reason why he doesn't do this anymore, Will Graham, is because it fucked with him too much. And Jack knows that. And yet he's still asking him to do it.
Yep.
Also, it may have been glossed over a little bit because we were talking, but her body wasn't there earlier in the day. So that's why everyone's a bit freaked out.
Yeah.
So this is beyond absurd for how super empathetic people are. Do you know what I mean?
Little bitch.
Okay, she's a really cool person, but yeah, this opening scene is really unflattering for her.
Yeah. It's one of those, sometimes a character makes a really bad first impression, and it takes a long time to get over it.
Yeah.
Case in point, Edric and Emera.
A little bit. But they had
like
it's weird though, because their initial first impression was quite positive. It's just halfway through the episode, it's like, they're dicks.
Yeah. The first impression was positive to Luce, and it took the rest of the season to realize, they were just being brothers and sisters at that point. They weren't actually trying to mentally scar their sister, except, they kind of works. That's what brothers and sisters do. But to a brother and sister degree, not to a psychopath degree.
Yeah.
It took a second watching of that to let that episode slide and let the rest of their appearances speak for themselves rather than look like obvious backspaces.
Now, I don't know if it's going to affect you as hard as it affected me, but they do an effect in this episode that proper fucked with my brain for a while.
Do they do a thing with the dog?
No, it's not. No, the dog's fine. As of episode 1.
He just has a tactical sausage.
Okay, so he rescues strays.
Okay.
It's another one of his things where he's super empathetic, so including to dogs. So when you actually go inside his house, I think he's got like 12.
Sure. And that explains the tactical sausage.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Get to know his smell and don't tear him to shreds.
Yeah.
Normal behavior for wolves.
Dogs, but okay. Okay, I think I just heard your can ping and it frightened the shit out of me, Rick.
I'll see if we can timestamp that.
You don't need to timestamp it, no, it's just, ugh. I was expecting a jump scare and then all of a sudden it was just ping and I'm like, ah!
Boom! That's a scene you don't want to film multiple times.
Yep.
Now, if he's anything like me, yeah, I think I was going to say if he's anything like me, then part of fucking with him is going to be that he's going to find it difficult to forget individual cases.
Yep. It's already fucking with him.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the thing that bugs me a little bit is Jack's meant to be a seasoned detective who deals with serial killers. He should know that sometimes killing people is about an attraction rather than a hatred.
Yeah. A romanticization, yeah.
I mean, like, one of the more famous serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer, was, like, the reason why he killed black men is because he was attracted to black men.
Yeah. Yeah, because of the serial killer flaw, which is a real thing in the real world, of they can't help but drop breadcrumbs and go tee-hee and make it into a game.
Yeah. Like, they'll be all subtle for the first couple, and then they get sloppy because they want a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you wouldn't be able to do this nowadays with forensic evidence and whatnot, but arguably the most famous serial killer in all time, Jack the Ripper, sent letters to the police taunting them.
Yeah. I mean, this was before fingerprints, but yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, before forensic evidence of any kind, really.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things, like, this was... The original set of books were written before DNA evidence, weren't they?
I'm not sure about that. I think they had DNA evidence, but of that really broad kind. Because don't forget, there was DNA evidence for the fucking Yorkshire Ripper, but the DNA evidence was so hard to you had to have a perfect sample from the person twice.
Yes.
So it's one of those where they could have it, but it wasn't as good. You know? It wasn't effective. It's
like hair follicle will need to match with hair follicle, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting setting Hannibal in a... You brought it up, but it never really crossed my mind before, where they're setting Hannibal Lecter in a setting where they do have super accurate forensic evidence.
Yeah, like, they've tried to bring it forward a little bit, or so it seems. They're not just making it like a 1960s period piece.
Well, it's like, I don't think you'll get there, because I imagine you're not going to keep watching this after today. It just doesn't seem like your sort
Probably
of show. But later on, there's a point where they want scat samples from someone to see if they're a cannibal. Because if they're a cannibal, they'd be able to tell from their poop.
Yaha.
That's the level of forensic we're dealing with, so it's quite advanced compared to original Silence of the Lambs.
Sure. Uncle Stephen, I don't like foie gras.
Shut up!
That would actually be a really good end of an episode if it was a...
I believe that was probably the cutaway to an ad break, because we're about halfway through the episode.
Yeah. Like, if it was a 22-minute episode with one ad break, then that would be a good time to stop it to make it into a 30-minute time period.
Absolutely. So one of the things, it's one of the few interviews that I bothered listening to / watching with Mikkelsen, is he said straight up that when he accepted the role of this and when he was playing the role, he was making it his own thing and not trying to be Anthony Hopkins.
Sure.
I don't know if we'll get real glimpses of it in this, but he always said that he played him as if he wasn't human, as if he was a devil.
Like some other, basically any other species looking at human as a curiosity.
Why would you assume that the first person out the room would be the person who owns the office?
Yeah, would be a bit weird, wouldn't it?
So, he doesn't show it or anything, because obviously not, but Hannibal has been doing his own serial killing up until this point. So I imagine butt is clenched when he hears the FBI is here for him.
Yep. Yeah, he just passed her last week.
Okay. I do like how the music takes a bit of a sinister twang as he picks up the scalpel.
Yes.
Soon as he realises it's not a criminal investigation on him, the music stops and the scalpel goes back down. Like, it's subtle, but I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's it takes a certain degree of humility to admit that your level of expertise is not that of a doctor.
Yeah, it also helps because you're dealing with Hannibal Lecter, and stroking his ego is probably one of the few ways where you get off the dinner list.
Yeah.
Not that Jack knows that at this point.
I like the term dinner list.
Well, again, there's a scene later on where he's preparing dinner for a bunch of people in a party, and as he's determining what to serve, he's just flicking through a Rolodex.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Took a second, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think someone even says to him at one point, "Why do you have a Rolodex in this day and age?"
Yeah, because it's a tactile thing.
He's giving an excuse for it, but that is a common thing in autism, isn't it?
Yeah, because like trying to maintain eye contact is avoiding eyes is a thing in autism, which also means that intense eye contact is trying to combat that by going completely the other way.
Okay, that's actually a reference, but a better reference than you think. Obviously, there's the Hulk reference, but the person who played Will Graham in Red Dragon, which is one of the films we're watching, is Edward Norton, who played Bruce Banner.
The second Bruce Banner, yeah. Well, second movie Bruce Banner.
Yeah. We're being very quiet, but it's one of the annoying things with detective shows where you kind of got to pay a bit of attention, even though I've already watched it before.
You do. Yeah, you got to pay attention. You got to, well, for us, also read the subtitles.
Yeah.
But also like paying attention to the intonation, the scene setting, and all that.
The level of the graphicness of serial killers in this show just gets worse and worse the more you watch, by the way.
Yep.
This is the bottom. This is the least offensive it gets.
Hmm.
So we had a nice little problem when I watched this with that other friend of mine, where he started breathing funny when he saw this. Which, I get it, because I don't start breathing funny, but you do feel a bit weird seeing a human organ being cut up, don't you?
Yeah, or what's portrayed as a human organ. Oh, does he feel Alabama for his daughter?
Oh, dude, it's fucked.
Catty, but accurate.
So, in case it's not clear, can you tell what's going on?
Yeah, he's taking inspiration.
Now, bear in mind, Hannibal was already doing this, killing people and eating them. But
Yeah.
He straight up said to Jack, "Oh, I've got a way to help Will Graham. And the way to do that is to do a copycat killing."
To annoy him into doing the right thing for his correct investigation.
Yeah. And it's so funny how Will Graham sends Jack to bother Hannibal about Hannibal's own murder.
Yeah. Vampire.
Hannibal has a thing about being polite.
Hmm. Yeah, it's quite often one of those like villainous virtues of if you're polite to me, then I can be polite to you.
See, again, I don't think killing people, pretty bad. I don't condone it. Eating people, pretty bad. I don't condone it. But I think the most fucked up thing Hannibal does is just serving cooked up people to other people without them knowing.
Yeah, it's the Tesco dilemma, isn't it? Like,
okay, it's a bit worse
we're
than
selling
that.
you horse meat.
No. Even if you knew it was human, it's still bad. But I think it's.
Yeah,
I think it's hands.
You wouldn't get long pork from Tesco.
I think it's hands down the most despicable thing Hannibal does, and he does it with glee.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another thing as well that serial killers have been known to do. Like, they want to taunt the person chasing them.
Yeah. A gift-wrapped crime scene, indeed. Yeah, nice little zoom in on the piece of meat.
Mm.
I like that.
That's, yeah. That's a scary compliment, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Because nobody wants to deal with mongoose on a regular basis.
No.
But when there are snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing as well that you notice, especially on a rewatch, that Will Graham is so blinded by the case in front of him, he can't see the red flags from Hannibal.
Yeah.
Where if he was looking at Hannibal this early on as a potential threat, he'd be getting a dozen red flags. Easy to say as a viewer, because, you know...
Yeah, because we've seen, we've seen the way that things are framed. We see him making his dinner and all that.
But also,
and,
they've established that Will Graham...
His name is Hannibal.
There's that, we know that, but again, we've established early on that Will Graham is hyper-empathetic, so if he was looking with that eye at Hannibal, in theory, he'd be able to clock pretty easily.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. It's very... the show's called Hannibal, and anyone who knows anything about Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal Lecter knows he's a psychopath. Well, a psychopath is arguable. Psychopath or sociopath, I forget the actual technical difference. Serial killer who eats people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing people know. I can't even tell you the name of the other villain from Silence of the Lambs.
Buffalo Bill.
Because Hannibal Lecter steals the show. Oh, Buffalo Bill? Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, because Hannibal Lecter steals the show to such a degree that is the Hannibal Lecter show.
Actually, I'm really bothered now. Is it Buffalo Bill? It's Buffalo something. Fuck. I'm annoyed, Rick. Oh, you've annoyed me.
Here's me just blissful in my lack of knowledge.
Yeah, it was Buffalo Bill. Fuck, I'm not crazy. Cool.
Sure. Little shit. What a spanner in the wrench. I mean, spanner in the works.
I knew what you meant, but fuck. Yeah, so I remember watching Sons of Anarchy or doing a rewatch not too long ago, and they're constantly spitting on corpses they leave, and I'm like, how the fuck are you guys not getting found out immediately? And then you watch something like this,
Yeah.
and even to the fact that Hannibal just made that phone call, he wrapped his hand in tissue so he didn't leave fingerprints on the phone.
Yeah, so even if they could trace a otherwise secret caller ID, then there's no evidence that he was ever there.
I don't think Will Graham has actually got the authority to have a gun drawn at this point. I don't think anyone will begrudge him, but you know.
Isn't this just his recreation?
No. Not this time.
Okay, he is actually doing this. Okay. Like, it's unclear.
Yeah, it's meant to be. Oh, God, I do not like that. I know it's not real, but I don't like that amount of blood. It's very concerning.
Too much Ribena.
Now, Hannibal Lecter isn't just a psychiatrist, by the way. He's got real medical training.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that's where his actual doctorate is.
I don't know.
Because, yeah, you can have medical training without being a doctor. Like, medics, for instance.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't actually know where his... Like, he's a doctor, so he has to have a doctorate. I just don't know what that's in. I assume psychiatrics.
Yeah, but it's a weird one where you can practice certain things essentially unqualified, but if you have a doctorate, you can still claim it for whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I could be a doctor of geology and still, like...
Yeah, Dr. Marsh.
Claim my doctorate while I'm running a chiropractor, for instance.
Alright, yeah. But...
Because as we all know, chiropractors are not real doctors.
No. That being said, going back to Graham not being able to spot Lecter for what he is, even in that scenario, Graham was freaked out, understandably so. Alarm bell should have rung with how calm and collected Lecter was in that scenario.
Yes, and the fact that he just showed up at the same time.
He was with him. He was in the car with him.
Was he actually? Okay,
Yeah.
That was also unclear. Like, I didn't think they were together, because when he was in the car, it looked like he was on his own.
No, they were together. Like, they were together when they were in the place where he phoned from. Like, Lecter's job at the moment is basically to hang around with Will Graham. I will say, I think this first season... We're on the credits now, guys. Oh, shit, I've got to click watch credits. There we go.
Yeah, me too. I nearly got caught by that.
Yeah, we're on the credits now, guys. I will say, I think Season 1 of Hannibal is the best season.
Sure. It's often the way with things like this. Like, they have their concept, and they put forth as best a pitch as they can to get more seasons.
Yeah. The real kicker with Hannibal is in Season 2 they do this thing I fucking hate. They start Season 2 with a fight scene between two characters, and then they flash back at the end of the fight scene, or near the end of the fight scene, and it's like, cool, so now we know that these two characters are invincible.
Yes.
And considering the nature of this show, that's actually a drawback.
It is, yeah, because like in a omnicide show, you kind of want people to be omnicidable.
But yeah, Season 2 was okay. Season 3, I only watched the first couple of episodes. The reason why it falls off a bit in Season 2 is they take storylines that were Clarice
Right, and just shoehorn them into Will Graham.
Pretty much. Apparently, the reason they did that is because they were given 3 seasons and they wanted 5.
Sure.
And apparently they were going to transition to having her actually in the show, but it didn't happen. So, whatever. But yeah, that was the first episode of Hannibal the series. What did you think?
It was reasonable. Like you say, it's not the kind of thing that I would typically voluntarily watch all of. However, it's also the kind of thing that I can see my mum just binging because you know what women are like. Good serial killer show, they'll just watch the shit out of it. So yeah, how about you? What did you think on your third viewing?
Little things obviously stand out a lot more when you're watching something. It was also easier today to actually just shoot the shit while watching because I knew what was happening.
Yeah, and you didn't really have to explain as much to me as you might someone without subtitles.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I was pointing out some things specifically because I suspected you wouldn't be watching more of this.
Sure.
I will say, when I was watching this the first time, it's one of those TV shows where I like eating when I watch TV. You might be able to tell that if you ever see me in reality. I can't do that with this show.
No, maybe crisps and nothing else.
I can't eat anything. It makes me feel ill. But yeah, that is to say, I think we both had a relatively fun time. Rick, we need to do our wind down. Do you have a favourite moment?
It was the reveal of Hannibal at the midpoint. And like I think I said at the time, this looks like an incredibly good place to just end the episode and like make that the end of episode 1. Like he didn't even have to do anything. He just stole the scene with his presence.
Much like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Like every time Hannibal Lecter's not on screen, everyone should be asking, where's Hannibal Lecter?
Yeah, but how about you? What was your favourite moment?
I was trying to keep as quiet as possible because, yeah, that's a hell of a shot. That's definitely...
it is.
Definitely gets my tick for moment. In fact, I might use it as the screenshot for the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have no complaints about that.
That being said, we can't only talk about the good, we also have to talk about the bad. So with that in mind, Rick, do you have a weakest link?
I think it was the characterization of the lady investigator as a first impression. We brought it up in the show when it happened that she doesn't make a good first impression on the viewer or on Will Graham.
Oh no, she's an asshole. But like by episode 3, she's like a legend.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, as I'm assuming as far as the show goes, she becomes our asshole, but like she's not our asshole yet, she's just an asshole. So yeah, that was my weakest link. What about What about you? What was your weakest link?
My weakest link is from the knowledge of what happens in the series later, and it's very much not a fair weakest link, because going into this show, you should know this is going to happen. But the makeup and the effects and the gore is so good, it's too good. I don't like it.
Sure, absolutely. I almost felt that way about the lung butchering scene in particular.
Yeah, it gets worse.
But yeah, I can assume so.
But you know, it's a good show, and if you don't like gore and you can't handle it, you're not gonna like this show. And I fully acknowledge that. I'm saying it's my weakest link because it does legitimately squick me. But you know, I also knew going in, it's fucking Hannibal Lecter. It's gonna be messy. But of course, we don't like to end on a low note. We always want to end on a high. I don't think there's going to be any prizes for guessing who my MVP is. But Rick, I don't know who yours is. So who is it?
So it's a 50-50 between Mads Mikkelsen in particular for his portrayal and Will Graham as a character for carrying the episode. I think I'm going to side with Will Graham because not knowing the character did a very good job of introducing him, his motivations, and his focus. So yeah, it's going to go to Will Graham for me. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Mads Mikkelsen / Hannibal Lecter. Almost entirely because it's being influenced by the series as a whole. And I know that's not fair, but it's my show and it's my award. Fuck you.
Yep.
I unironically love Mads Mikkelsen in most things he does. This is no exception. And hey, if you watch this show and you think, fuck me, Mads Mikkelsen is a monster, watch the outtakes from this show because it's so unbelievably funny.
I might have to do that for a palate cleanse.
You should, because you'll see Mads Mikkelsen being his straight-faced, scary Hannibal Lecter in 1 second, and then 2 seconds later making a joke about spilling wine.
Man, the last thing I saw him in was when he was Grindelwald in the Harry Potter spin-off, when he just replaced Johnny Depp and was able to bring a lot more
gravitas?
Whisper threat. Yeah, gravitas. Gravitas is a much better word than whisper threat to the character and like make it a credible villain.
Sure. I mean, one of the problems with anything that's a prequel is this person never gets mentioned in the mainline series, so guess what's happening to them?
Yes.
But the only thing I know about Grindelwald is, wasn't he in a relationship with Dumbledore at some point?
Yeah, they were together at some point, and they split up over, I believe, one of them killed Dumbledore's sister, and the fact that Dumbledore doesn't remember who means that it was probably him.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's weird, but whatever.
Yeah. It's, it's how this shit gets written.
Those of you watching along on YouTube have, of course, got the comment section down below. You can give us suggestions. You can give us spooky suggestions, but we've kind of got October booked, as it were. It might get done. It probably won't. But yes, we also have...
We do have a planning zone, so it might get shelved until next year.
Could you imagine that? Someone just goes, could you please review this? And it's like, yeah, we'll do it. 1 year later, hello, XX Dildo 69. We're finally doing Spooky Boos.
Yeah, because everyone's XX Dildo 69, yeah.
I was trying to make up a funny name and it just... whatever. That being said, if you're not watching via YouTube and have a classier sort of name, we do have an email address instead, which you can send requests and thoughts and comments to. We might even read them on the show if we ever get any. Rick, what's that email address?
nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. Once again, that is nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com.
Yes. And that does it for us here today. That's the first one in the books for October. Join us for more spooky times.
Bye!